Appreciate that. Today, we're focusing on one that isn't having a big impact on my life yet. It will as I get older. It's called Prostate Factors. It's one that affects most men as they age, and generally most men by the time they're 60 are having prostate issues. You get a lot of people that are asking you about this issue.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, it's one of the fastest growing epidemics that I've ever seen in these last 15 years of having a health food store. Is the huge increase of men coming in with prostatitis and benign hyperplasia and prostate cancer and just swollen prostate, having really bad problems voiding the bladder. It's a huge growing epidemic without a doubt.
Right. I remember my grandfather, and this is when I was younger, and I didn't have Prostate Factors wasn't created yet. I think Prostate Factors may have been made. I think I made it 12 or 13 years ago. So this was before Prostate Factors, before I knew a lot about prostate formulas. And I remember my grandfather in his mid-80s, and he was a gentleman, so I know this wasn't an enjoyable experience for him. I remember being in the, with the family, and he had to pull the car over, and right on the street, he had to relieve himself. It was that urgent of an issue that he couldn't wait. And I remember him telling me that he had to get up several times a night. And he was frustrated not only because he was having this problem, but because he didn't understand why it was happening. And I remember him telling me, I can't understand this. I know that my bladder holds more liquid than this, but such a small amount comes out. And what he didn't know was the pressure that from an enlarged prostate against his bladder was causing that. He didn't know that. He didn't know where the bladder is in relationship with the prostate and how it swells and affects the urethra. He didn't know about any of that. So he just couldn't figure out why such a small amount was coming out and why he kept having to go to the bathroom. He thought that he would empty completely. It was a confusing problem for him, and we can get right into this and what we've come up with in terms of nutrition to help people out in this situation. Here's the formula, and these are the most important nutrients that society, that science has agreed are the most important for people with prostate issues in their best forms and in their optimal doses, optimal quantities. And here's the formula. This is per serving, 650 milligrams of HPLC tested saw palmetto, standardized to 45% fatty acids, 20 milligrams of lycopene, HPLC tested, and that's lycopene beadlets, not powder, like we spoke about with ocular factors. When it comes to these carotenoids, they're not very stable, and in a powder form, the potency diminishes over time, so it's important that they're put into a stable beadlet. Phytosterol concentrate, 500 milligrams of all the different plant sterols, beta-cytosterol, camphosterol, stigmasterol, 250 milligrams of HPLC-tested stinging nettle, standardized to 1% plant silica, 15 milligrams of the best form of zinc, which is zinc aspartate, and 30 milligrams of pumpkin seed. And to start off, all of our formulas are made here in the USA. They're always in capsule form. The primary line is in amber glass because it provides a better barrier against oxygen, light, moisture, all of the elements that diminish the potency over time. We do have a small amount in plastic for people who don't want glass because of the breakage, but in general, the line is in amber glass. And we try to be as close to additive-free as possible. I got my start working for Andrew Lessman, who has the only additive-free vitamin company, and that's where I worked for almost 5 years and learned the business. And I try to stay as close to additive-free as possible. And if you look at the inactive ingredients on our formulas, you'll notice on almost all of them, you'll just see the gelatin, which is the capsule, and maybe a tiny bit of rice as a filler if it's needed, and half of 1% of magnesium stearate so the capsules don't crack, and that's it. No other inactive ingredients.
Nothing toxic.
Right, and no long laundry lists of additives that are inactive that just help manufacturers. This formula will be primarily used by older men. Women don't have a prostate gland, so they don't need this formula. What is a prostate gland? It's a gland that's about the size of a walnut. It weighs about an ounce, and it surrounds the neck of the bladder and the urethra. And the prostate starts to grow in men around 25 years old. It grows a bit it actually grows substantially in puberty, but then stops. And then at around 25, it starts to grow again. And it continues to grow for the rest of our lives. And and this is what my grandfather didn't know and why he was so frustrated. As the prostate enlarges, it presses on the urethra, which interferes with urination. Then the bladder wall becomes thicker and irritated, and it begins to contract, causing more frequent urination. And as a result, the bladder weakens and doesn't empty completely. And so this process is referred to as benign prostatic hyperplasia. Most people refer to it as BPH. Most Americans are having issues by the age of 60, and around 80% are affected in their 80s. And the early stages of prostate issues are usually signaled by a weaker stream of urination and having to wake up from a night's sleep to go to the bathroom, sometimes several times a night. The nutrients in Prostate Factors help us deal with the issue of having our sleep interrupted by the feeling of having to go to the bathroom. They're getting up to use the bathroom because they're experiencing the effects of an enlarged prostate. It's pressing against their bladder. Interestingly, sexual activity has a positive impact on prostate health. The more often men ejaculate, the less likely they are to have problems with their prostate. And researchers think this happens as a result of harmful irritants that cause inflammation being expelled during ejaculation. And it's very important to see a doctor to make sure that this is not a UTI, a urinary tract infection, or prostate cancer. Hopefully it's just a benign enlargement that comes with age. So breaking down the nutrients, probably the most popular and widely used is saw palmetto. We put in 650 milligrams of saw palmetto standardized to 45% fatty acids. It's probably the most widely used supplement to relieve urinary conditions. And our saw palmetto comes right here from the USA, comes from your state in Florida. Saw palmetto is non-toxic, so there are no side effects. And saw palmetto, like so many other ingredients, can have the quality compromised by manufacturers to save money. When it comes to oils, many companies just add olive oil to saw palmetto. We've all seen how inexpensive a jug of olive oil is at the grocery store. Well, they just add olive oil to saw palmetto to meet the fatty acid claim. So if somebody were to take the saw palmetto soft gel and have it tested for fatty acids, should probably be around 90% fatty acids. They just spike it with olive oil and it passes the test. But the key is to get our fatty acids from saw palmetto, not from vegetable oil. So saw palmetto is very expensive, and that's the reason that they do it. And we use the highest standardization for a dry form. So you can go all the way up to 90% or so fatty acids in an oil, but if you want the formula to be stable as possible, when something's in a liquid, things just tend to grow in it. If it's in a powder form, it's more stable, and the highest amount of fatty acids we can get in a powder is 45%. That's the highest we use. And by the way, 650 milligrams of a 45% fatty acid delivers the same amount of fatty acids as the soft gel. The soft gel is usually 320 milligrams, and it's generally about 90% fatty acids. So if we do the math, even though it's a 45% fatty acids instead of a 90%, the way we get in a soft gel, we just put twice as much in, so we get just as much of the good stuff. I've also seen white saw palmetto powder standardized to 45% fatty acids from China, but it's not saw palmetto, and I found that out the hard way. It's extremely expensive. I mean, it was a huge order in terms of money, and it came white, and this was from a huge plant extract supplier that everyone in the industry knows and is respected. And I remember receiving it and contacting some saw palmetto extract specialists that only do saw palmetto. This supplier does other plant extracts. They do a lot of different lycopene and many different plant extracts. One of them that they were offering was saw palmetto, so they didn't specialize in only saw palmetto. So I did a little due diligence and spoke to some people that only do CO2 extracted saw palmetto, and they right away told me, oh, that's not saw palmetto if it's white. saw palmetto is not white, it's tan. And so, of course, I returned it. And, this material, if it's not saw palmetto, I don't know what it is, and it's making its way into a lot of the products in stores today due to its lower cost. So it's very important, like so many other ingredients, to take the high road and make sure that you're getting the highest quality material possible, because it's tempting for people to compromise to save money because these ingredients are so expensive. And again, if somebody tests it for fatty acids, if they spike it with vegetable oil, there's fatty acids in there, it'll pass. So saw palmetto is tricky for that reason. And the next ingredient is lycopene. Lycopene is also very tricky. It's a carotenoid, like the ones we spoke about when we were talking about ocular factors. It's a red pigment found in fruits and vegetables, and richest sources are tomatoes and watermelon. It's a powerful carotenoid antioxidant. It's absorbed better in the presence of fats, so it's a good idea to take Prostate Factors with a meal that includes fats. People also take lycopene for macular degeneration as well as cardiovascular health. And here's some good news. 1 cup of tomato juice has 20 milligrams of lycopene, which is the same amount as you get in Prostate Factors per serving. And the American Cancer Society website states that people who have diets rich in tomatoes, which contain lycopene, appear in some studies to have lower risks of certain types of cancer, especially cancers of the prostate. And according to the Mayo Clinic, lycopene has been shown to have properties that may help prevent tumor growth. A high intake of lycopene has been associated with a reduced risk of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and macular degeneration. Our lycopene is HPLC tested. Much of the lycopene that's on the market is UV tested. UV is the method that's popular in Europe. And if you take a UV tested lycopene 10%, for example, and you send it to a lab and have them test it by HPLC, it doesn't come out at 10%. It'll come out at 6%. And that's the reason they're using the UV, because they don't want it. They can, they can sell it at a much lower price. If they tried to really make it 10%, it would almost double the cost of the material. And they just hope that the producer of the supplement doesn't know or doesn't care. They've got a report that says it's 10%, and they're fine with it. Also, not only is our lycopene HPLC tested, but it's in a beadlet form, which is so important with these sensitive, delicate carotenoids. And I've experimented with this myself by taking a carotenoid powder like lycopene or lutein and just sprinkling a little powder on a white paper plate and putting 2 of them out on my desktop and checking back in a week or 2. And there's no doubt that the beadlets that I sprinkled in the first plate are still the deep, rich color that they started with, but the powder has faded. And so it's important to not only get HPLC tested natural carotenoids, in this case lycopene, but also to make sure they're in a stable beadlet form. The next ingredient is phytosterol concentrate. We use 500 milligrams. These are plant sterols. Phytosterols are phytochemicals naturally found in a variety of plants. Phytosterols are also taken for cardiovascular health. And the FDA approves the statement, foods containing at least 0.4 grams per serving of plant sterols taken twice a day with meals for a daily total intake of at least 0.8 grams as a part of a diet low in saturated fat and cholesterol may reduce the risk of heart disease. The next ingredient is 250 milligrams of stinging nettle, 1% plant silica. This plant has a long history of medicine. Stinging nettle is probably one of the world's most popular herbal remedies. The benefits consumers seek to derive when taking stinging nettle are anti-inflammatory. Nettle root extracts have been extensively studied in human clinical trials as a treatment for symptoms of BPH, and these extracts have been shown to help relieve symptoms compared to placebos in studies. The next ingredient is zinc. We put in 15 milligrams of zinc from zinc aspartate. Zinc is an essential trace mineral that's present in many proteins. It plays a role in immune response and cell growth. Zinc is present in significant amounts in prostate cells, where it appears to play a protective and anti-inflammatory role. The United States Institute of Medicine currently sets the upper limits for zinc at 40 milligrams. So we put in 15, and if you're getting another 15 in a multi, you're still within a safe range. In 2007, Oregon State University researchers examined the role of zinc in the DNA damage response of prostate cells. The study led the research team to conclude that zinc deficiency may impair the function of zinc-containing proteins in the prostate, leading to abnormalities in prostate function and growth, while it is believed that adequate zinc consumption may prevent abnormal prostate growth. And then we use 300 milligrams of pumpkin seed. And by the way, there are other nutrients that are helpful, primarily vitamins and minerals, vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin E, selenium, iodine, calcium, magnesium. And then, like many of our formulas, I don't fill the formula up. I don't want to make it a 6 or an 8 capsule formula if I can avoid that. I think people should be getting these nutrients in a high-quality multivitamin, multi-mineral formula and in their diet. So that covers the formula.
Well, I'm seeing more and more gentlemen coming in these days that are in their 30s with prostate problems. It's happening earlier and earlier. And then on a good note, we've gotten many reports already of gentlemen coming in using the prostate factors, and they're getting up less at night, less frequency of urination, and during the daytime, less frequency of urination. And to me, the proof's in the pudding. When you take something and you see physically, you see those results, that verifies that what you're doing is real.
And that's always nice. When you have a formula like I was describing with Adrenal Factors, where I noticed it literally minutes after taking it for the first time, that's always nice, because many of these nutrients, the benefits come way down the road, sometimes 5 or 10 years or longer down the road. And we're taking them on faith and hoping that they really deliver in the long run. I do that. But it's always nice to have something that immediately we know it's working, and this is one of them from the feedback that we've been getting.
Definitely. You've got a bunch of friends that are using it now too?
Friends, I would say at this stage, most of my friends are not old enough to have this problem yet. But
no, I mean the Adrenal Factors.
Oh, Adrenal Factors, yeah. Everyone I give it to. I haven't given it to one person yet who, when I asked them what they thought of it, gave me any kind of a mediocre or negative response. Everyone I've given it to is blown away by it. Literally everyone I've given it to is blown away by it. So it's a little frustrating because this is a small company. This company doesn't have the type of distribution that a large company has. So it's unfortunate that we have these super high-end formulas that are so effective, and so few people will ever find out about it unless there's somebody who's really idealistic and someone who's really got integrity and someone who's hardworking, someone like you, which is so rare. Then they'll have access to it. But I've found that after 25 years in the supplement business dealing with health food store owners, unfortunately, I've found that's usually not the case. They generally, they want to promote popular products. They don't really care if they work. All they want to do is have something that someone comes in looking for. It makes their job easier, which is surprising. I'm still surprised. I've been surprised all these years, and I've had store owners tell me that I asked them, so you wouldn't mind getting a product that costs nothing to make, that doesn't do anything. If people come in looking for it and you can sell it at a high margin, you would have no problem with that. And I've had people that own chains of stores tell me, absolutely, I have no problem with that. That's what I want. Mm-hmm. So clear that they're just doing this to make money. That's the only reason. They don't care if anyone is helped in any way. They're just looking for a way to. It's really unfortunate, but it's a little frustrating. But hopefully, in time, the truth will spread, and more people will have access to these formulas. And Adrenal Factors is the one that I'm most excited about. I wish I could get that into the hands of every stressed out person in the world right now.
The curcumin plus bioprene, our new curcumin product. The feedback coming in from that has been astronomical. We've got a good friend, Bill, who called in. His wife had a knee replacement, has artificial knee. First product to ever give her relief with the pain and inflammation of an artificial knee. We have our next door neighbor Sally that lives next door to us, who's I'm sure listening to the program right now. She's getting her movement back, her fluid movement back from arthritis and inflammation throughout her body. And then out at the ranch, we have one couple that lives out there, even more, a little more rural than us, but that's Gene and Joanne. They're 85 years old. Joanne told us, I said, would y'all call in on the radio? And they said, no, I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that, which I understand. But they, 85 years old, and she said, Lee, I can move my arm again. I'm getting in, up, and down out of my chair again. I'm walking again without pain, without inflammation. And that's the curcumin bioprene. So,
wow.
Yeah, the reports just keep coming, and it's phenomenal to see. And what are we, 29 cents a pill right now is what it's costing versus the $1 a pill on the market. And this product's actually working right across the board for everybody. We haven't got one bad report. It's helped everybody who's picking the bottle up, even coming from the big companies with the most popular products. When they switch to our curcumin, to yours and on my curcumin, curcumin plus bioprene, they're saying that the effect, much better effect, much better anti-inflammatory, more fluid movement to the joints. So I'm really happy to hear these reports coming in from people, because it's making a difference, and at 1/4 the cost. And that, but I got to remember this, friends. This 1/4 the cost per pill is because of the gentleman we're talking to, our friend Laurence. This is
well,
it's
hey,
the only reason it's happening.
Give yourself the credit, because I can make the best formulas in the world. I can offer them for half the price of everyone else, and no one is going to know about it unless somebody like you does the hardest part, which is what you're doing. So the credit really is shared evenly, and if anything, it's swayed more in your direction, and I appreciate your humility, but really, what you're doing is very rare, and I appreciate it. Oh, and one other thing about the curcumin and bioprene. Curcumin, like many of these ingredients, not only is absorbed better in the presence of food, but some of them are especially absorbed better in the presence of fats, like CoQ10 and like the lycopene we just talked about, that it's so popular in the Mediterranean diet where they cook with olive oil, they mix it. And the same thing happens with turmeric in India. So they cook with it and they infuse fat with it. So it's always a good idea to take your supplements with a complete meal, unless it's an isolated amino acid, then it's good to take it on an empty stomach. But we want to take these supplements with a large complete meal, especially curcumin and bioprene, a complete meal that has fat in it. And because of that, we've improved the formula, and we've added 100 milligrams of phosphatidylcholine concentrate. So you'll have those fats and lipids already built into the capsule, and we haven't reduced the amount of curcumin, and we haven't reduced the amount of bioprene. What we did is move to a larger size capsule, so when people see it starting in a few weeks, they'll see a much larger bottle. The 180 capsule size bottle is going to be much larger, and the capsule inside is going to be much larger, and it's going to have the same amount of curcumin and bioprene that the smaller capsule had, but it's going to have 100 milligrams of phosphatidylcholine complex, and that's the reason why. It's going to help it even get absorbed even better, just in case they don't take it with a meal that has fats.
Well, Laurence, you're the man. We're grateful to you, everything that you're doing, your heart, your integrity, your scruples, your morals in business, caring, actually giving a care about people. That how rare is that in the vitamin industry today? You actually care about people.
That's ironic.
Yes, it is. But thank you for coming on again, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I look forward to it. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you too. Thank you, Laurence.
Thank you, Lee. Bye-bye.
And that was Laurence of Nature's Purest, and we've partnered with him, and what a phenomenal gentleman. I think you just heard his heart. Kind of hard to fake it, isn't it? Phenomenal guy. That and the product we were talking about today is Prostate Factors. Of course, we talked about a few more today too. Nothing else on the market like these products. HPLC, high pressure liquid chromatography tested, the ultimate in supplementation that really works.